Welcome back, Mike. And
Right.
in our last talk, we've been linking various ideas of objectives and counter objectives, and now you'd like to talk about an idea which is what you call obstacles. So tell us about that.
Okay. Well, I talked about counter objectives, and the counter objective is an obstacle. Now, why do people have objectives and drives? Because they want something which they haven't got. Now, what is stopping them from getting what they want? There is some sort of obstacle. I mean, if I'm desperate for a bottle of wine, I could just go and get one, but maybe I've actually got to go to Tesco or to Waitrose or to my local winery and buy one. And I haven't got enough money. So I've got to see if I can borrow from somebody or can run up a bill at the bill. Do you see what I mean? So I've got to overcome those in order to get, then I've got to bring the bottle back and then open it and pour it out. So there's a lot of things in my way before I can get what I want. Okay. So there seem to me three categories of obstacles. One is an external obstacle, which has nothing to do with the character or the situation of the person in terms of relationships, like war has been declared. The COVID virus has descended on us. Yeah? Okay. This is usually, or you're in a train wreck, or your plane is held up and you miss a meeting and things like that. Now, those are things that are out of your control. And this is the material of melodrama and movies and stuff. Yes, really. Okay, most of the time. But what is interesting about those obstacles is how the characters behave within those circumstances over which they have no control. Okay, so that's one sort of obstacle. It's interesting, but it's the least interest. The one which is most obvious and most we use and we think about most is the conflict between people. I want something from you, you want something from me. Now, we talked, I think, about Streetcar Named Desire and Blanche and Stanley. Okay, well, this is a lovely example. Blanche is lost. She has nowhere to go. She's derelict, she's totally without possibilities, except for her moving in with her sister, who is married to Stanley. That's her haven, her rescue, her only possibility. So it is desperate for her to move in and to be looked after and to stay with her sister. Okay. Now, Stanley, her brother-in-law, who she's never met until this time when she arrives, finds her very intrusive in his household. He doesn't particularly like her airs and graces and the way she talks about him, and especially to his wife. And he wants to get her out. And so there are two very strong conflicts. That's the dominant conflict of the play. Blanche wants to stay, Stanley wants her out. And there's sort of the boxing ring is poor Stella, the sister, because they both work on her, basically. Okay, so, and those are sort of conflicts that the actors usually play, and you can start playing immediately. I want something from you, you want something from me. Yeah, okay, so that's another obstacle. Okay, the third obstacle is an obstacle within yourself. Now, I've given you the main one, which is a counter objective. I want something in life, but there's something else which is also wanting me to go in the opposite direction. Now, you can have all sorts of smaller obstacles from this, something about your personality, something, which stops you getting what you want or makes it difficult for you to get what you want. And they're very interesting because it makes the character complex. Mm-hmm. Doesn't it? You know what I mean? So it's not like I want something, I go for it. There is something I want, but the three sisters, they say, we want to go back to Moscow, 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 Moscow. We must go back to Moscow. But they don't go back to Moscow. They are unhappy where they are, but why don't they go back to Moscow? Well, for all sorts of reasons. Financial, they have no roots there anymore. Um, although they don't like the present, they don't want to change what they're already getting comfortable for. There's all sorts of reasons, you know, and of course they don't go. So maybe they don't really want to go, they just think of it. So maybe that isn't their objective at all. It probably isn't, in fact.
Mm.
You know, they talk about it as a way of telling themselves that everything's going to be all right without actually trying to figure out how they can make their lives better in the current situation, more or less. I mean, that's a bit crude, but you know, what, you know, again, we come down to what is stopping Hamlet from revenging his father, which in that period is what you should do. He's a loyal and devoted son to a loving father whom he very much admires, and it would be part of his world that you do revenge yourself. You do punish the people. Well, certainly somebody who's murdered your father, you have every right to make sure they get their comeuppance, but he doesn't. So the interesting, what are the conflicts that are holding him? We've already talked about them a little bit in the counter objective, but there may be big things, small things. You know, essentially, I think Hamlet is somebody who wants to be very truthful. And this is just a sense I get. I'm talking about this off the top of my head because I haven't done a serious analysis. So that he actually wants to live truthfully and purely in a way. And circumstances are stopping him from doing that. And he's somehow not equipped to do something which might take him into an area where he'll be dishonest, where he will behave badly. Supposing the ghost was a devil and he killed Claudius. Yeah. Or maybe he's making those excuses because for deeper reasons he doesn't want to do it. You know, so maybe he didn't love his father really, who knows? I mean, I don't think that's in the play, but there's all sorts of speculations you can make. Very dangerous with Shakespeare. Okay. So, but let's think of it a little bit more coming back, that if you want something, there must be some sort of obstacle you have to overcome.
Starting from the very simple, which is, you know, I have to put my shoes on in order to get out the door, in order to go to the shop, in order to get the...
Yes, exactly. They're little obstacles which are delaying you.
And
If I could get something very quickly, it wouldn't be dramatic. If everybody wanted things and there was no conflict or obstacle, it would be very boring drama.
would you alert somebody, would you alert an actor? Let's say you've got an actor in his 40s who's playing a 70-year-old and who's having to put his shoes on. You know, a 70-year-old, it's a bigger objective in a way than it is for a 30 or 40-year-old. Would you sort of, you know, kind of alert people to that?
Yeah, well, yes, I wouldn't make that a bit. That would be part of their characterization, and their body isn't functioning so well for them anymore. Therefore, they've got to decide how their body works and build up their own characterization, so that if they do put their shoes on, they find a way for themselves of putting them on, which makes it them look like 70-year-olds rather than 40-year-olds. Yes, but I wouldn't make that a character conflict in a way, you know, a conflict particularly, because it would just be part of the existence of the character. I mean, it is a conflict, I suppose, if you are suddenly discovering that the powers you have when you were younger are fading. It can be a frustration, it can be an obstacle because you haven't accepted them yet. I mean, I've been going through all sorts of things. Oh, why can't I walk as fast as I used to? Why is my energy quite as long as it used to be? You keep thinking you can do it, and there's a point where you'll say, actually, no, Michael, you can't. Don't force it. Try, but don't force it because your body is changing. You know, so that's the way that works. So, I mean, it depends on what moment is the predicament. You know, I mean, the big obstacle would be, look, I'm very old and I've get terribly attracted to somebody very much younger who isn't interested. You know, so anyway, there we are.
Okay.
It, no, but there's all layers of things, and sometimes the character knows what the obstacle is. Sometimes they don't know. They don't realize it, or it's subconscious.
So it's interesting. The very first one that you mentioned, you tended to link it with things like films and melodrama. You know, the earthquake,
External one, yes, yeah.
external one.
Well, they'd know what that. They'd know that was it. I
Yeah.
mean, we're hearing about it every day. Oh, I want to hug my mum, and I haven't seen her or been able to touch her since March.
But I'm just in. This is the question I want to ask here: is that does that ever work for the theatre as opposed to
Yes, it's an acting thing. Yes, it's what we do in life. So why shouldn't we work in theatre?
external threats? Where would we see that in a play, for instance? A big.
There's often plays like a group of people are trapped because war has broken out.
Yeah.
There's an American play written in it's called Idiots Alive. It's a whole lot of people who get trapped somewhere in Europe just before the outbreak of the Second World War.
Right.
And they're all thrown together and they have to watch something.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean it's a device you'll find all over the place. It's a way of getting a lot of characters together in a conflicting situation and see how they operate.
Well, snow in
I snowed in. It's Agatha Christie. They're all snowed in the house. Yes, exactly. You know that's it. Yes, they're snowed in. I mean, there's a wonderful example. It's a novel. Emma, Jane Austen, is brilliant. They go out to dinner with some local people, including the local vicar, and who's very interested in Emma, and she's not even aware, she doesn't fancy him, she's not even aware he fancies her. And while they're having dinner, a light snow descends. And Jane Austen is so wonderful, and it throws all the characters into conflict. Emma's father is a hypochondriac who the slightest thing that takes him out of his routine. He go, will we get home? Will we get home? So they have to. So there are a certain number of carriages, and so people are sort of put into what seem to be appropriate carriages. And she gets left in a carriage with Mr. Elton, and he finds himself alone in a carriage with her, and he proposes to her, and she is horrified and rejects him, and that sets up a whole plot line brilliantly, just wonderfully, and wittily, and and you believe it, and it's great, So yeah, sort of this is what the snow did, and so in Dudgeon he goes off and marries somebody else who comes back to their society, and then sort of tries to lord it over Emma, and it's very funny and awful. So yes, I mean it's used all the way often, and it's a perfectly good device if it suits what you're trying to talk about. How do people behave under pressure? I mean, we could write a million plays after COVID about what the COVID lockdown has done to people.
I'm trying to think. Enemy of the People, I suppose, is about the conflict between one man who says there is a big issue here.
Yeah. Yes, but that is not. They're not all agreeing about it.
No.
That would be like arguing about Brexit or, the vaccines or something like that. There's something that's there which is actually stopping them, usually physically, from moving out of where they are, or endangering. Do you see? So it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Okay, and your second, just to sum up, your second category is what we normally experience when we're interacting with other people.
That's right. Yes, the conflict all the time. Well, I mean, if I say, hi, Peter, how are you? And you say, very well, how are you? I'm very well too. It's so lovely to be with you. It's lovely to be with you too. Tell me about what you've done today. Oh, I did this today. Oh, how lovely. How nice. Tell me more about what you do today. No, no, you tell me. And it's all very pleasant. We might get some information. It might be nice to watch us for 5 minutes, but after 10 minutes, we'd all get very bored. If, but if there's something else going on under that, if we're doing all that on the surface, there's this objective, which is I'm trying to sweeten up Peter because I want to take all these tapes I've recorded and give them to somebody else to edit with a lot of film and music and stuff behind them. But I can't say it to him directly. Do you see what I mean? So again, it depends how overt the objectives are and how complicated the obstacles are, but there is always an obstacle, you see. And I don't talk about them very much in rehearsal, if at all. And I think I should do that more, but the actor should be conscious of what they all are, even if the character is semi-conscious, vaguely aware, not aware, or not admitting. Do you know what I mean? So, because then they know what the energy is, sort of, my objective has to overcome something.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, so very simply, those are obstacles. The obstacles restrain you from easily getting your objective. You have to overcome the obstacle, the resistance.
Resistance, yeah. Okay. Good. All right, Mike. These are short and sweet, these talks, and I think we've covered that one.
Okay.
And I think we're going to have a little pause, and then we'll move on to one final one for today. Okay. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Pleasure.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that chat. And if you did, would you press the like button and also the subscribe button? That would be great. And if you wanted to be given alerts to when the next one is happening, just press the bell button. If you want to put any comments or any questions underneath here, underneath the video, please do. And at some point I will re-interview Mike, as it were, and put some of these questions to him. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.